Okay, Bob. So we are going to talk about when you were born and where you were born. And I know you grew up in Belleville, but where were you born and when was it? And why don't you tell us the interesting conditions for that?
Well, I was born in Newark, New Jersey. I can't remember the name of the street right now. I can find that in the future. But mother was fixing Christmas dinner, and as happens sometimes, I said, "Knock, knock, mommy, I'm ready." And at the time, we didn't have a telephone, and my sister Helen was sent upstairs to use the landlady's phone to call an ambulance. And in a little while, the ambulance arrived with the first female intern in the state of New Jersey. She talked to mom for a few minutes and said, "Mrs. Jones, you're not going to make the hospital." So they took the turkey off the table, put it on the counter, sanitized the table. Mom got up there and out came Pop Pop. Now, the neighbors could not believe, and all our friends could not believe that she had been pregnant because even though I was 11 and a half pounds, uh, she was so slender that people thought she was suffering from consumption, which was a sickness back in those days. She was a member of the Rebecca's. She was on the director's staff and had been out in long white gown a couple of nights before. And one of the ladies called to find out if she was going to a meeting, and the landlady said, "Mrs. Jones just had a baby." And nobody could believe that. And Helen was wanting a doll, and she did get a doll carriage
That was for Christmas, right? As
for
her Christmas
Christmas.
gift, right?
Oh, I forgot to mention my birthday is December 25th, 1933. And she was given the chore of walking me around the block. And she tried to do it so quietly that I wouldn't wake up. But I was a nasty brother. I made her work at it.
My Aunt Helen said that she'd learned where every crack was on the sidewalks when she'd
Yeah,
take you for a walk because as soon as she'd hit a crack, you'd wake up for it. Yeah.
yeah, I remember that part. So we subsequently moved into the town of Belleville. Uh, I don't know how old I was when that happened, uh, but we lived at 571 Union Avenue, which was in number 5 school district. Our house was on Union Avenue, as I said. It was, went over one block to the Greylock Parkway, walked up the hill. The school was on the left at the top of the hill. So my birthday was on, as I said, the 25th of December in 1938, I guess. Uh, the rules were that you had to be 5 years old by the 30th of September in order to go to kindergarten. I wasn't 5 until the 25th of December, so the following year they changed the rules that if you were you had to be if you were 5 by the 31st of December, you went into kindergarten. I was not 5 at the time, so uh, I was 6. So they put me into first grade, which is why I'm so weird because I never went to kindergarten.
That's it.
That's it.
That's the whole explanation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I went there until I was in the 5th grade, and then we moved up to 679 Belleville Avenue, which was 4 blocks away from PS 10, and I was in the 5th grade when Uncle Bob moved into town and he joined our class. He ended up having pneumatic fever, and he was bedridden for quite a while. And I used to go over, took his homework with me, and we would work on the homework together, and I'd take it back the next morning. We, I used to leave my house, go out by a side street, Stevens Road, to Smallwood Avenue, and then down 5 blocks to their house. And his mother was Dorothy Smith Martin. His dad was William Paul Martin. And his mother named him Robert Brandon Martin. And he had a aunt that was married to Dr. Horace Orlando Bell, who was the chief of staff in Essex County Isolation Hospital when they used to have communicable diseases that had to be quarantined. They had a whole hospital to his staff. And when they built the hospital, they built a house down on the northwest corner of the property for Dr. Smith, who was the head of the hospital. And they were supposed to build a building for him, a house for him on the southwest corner, Franklin and Belleville. But the contractor defaulted on the contract and had to, never did build the house. So he lived in an apartment on the second floor over the administration building. And Uncle Bob and I used to go up to the hospital. We'd go out in the back, and it was an area that was rough for the city. It was real nice, sharp hill that you could go down with your bike, and it was a little hazardous. But I was a little timid, but Uncle Bob wasn't. He took off. He said, "Come on, Jones, let's go." So I finally got to where I could get down the hill too. But we would go back to the hospital, and they had behind the hospital was the old hospital, and further back from that there was the nurses' home.
So the nurses had homes on the
well, they had
hospital
apartments,
property,
yeah,
apartments, right? Okay.
and but the old hospital became the nurses' house headquarters. They had very nice places in there, but you could get down into the basement. There was a tunnel that went from the nurses' hospital all the way up and around into the basement of the new hospital. So we'd ride our bikes, and of course the guards would stop us and give us holy terror for riding our bikes in the tunnel. But they rarely did anything really bad, but they usually told Uncle Andy, who was Dr. Bell's name from,
You guys called up,
used.
right?
He was a man of few words. He would sit in the living room and be reading his paper, and his wife, who was Arlene Smith Bell, at one point in time said, Green Eyes. Of course, he had green eyes, and she called him Green Eyes. Said, would it be all right if Bob Jones called your Uncle Lanny? His response was, if he wants to. So he became Uncle Lanny to me, too. A lot of fun up in that place.
Now, that's the hospital that they finally, it's been through several different changes over the years, and now they're tearing it down to build condominiums.
I understand that.
Yeah. But it had been for communicable diseases, and then I think it was a few other things. But that was going from the house near the corner of Stevens and Belleville, heading towards Belleville Central. You know, the main part of Belleville. It would have been on the left side, right? You know, it's kind of up on a hill a little bit and had big open green areas across from Branch Brook Park.
Well, Brentford Park was on the south side.
Right.
There was a golf course there, and then, of course, the park was on the west side, as well as on the north side of Belleville Avenue.
Right.
And the golf course was a public golf course. We also had a golf course north of us that was a private golf course. And we used to sneak in there in the wintertime and go sleigh riding down the hill. We had a lot of fun doing that. And the kids used to, jump the fence and go sledding. And John Lynn, who was Bob's cousin, was on the golf course when they had the old sleds that did not have complete round runners. They had flat runners.
Right.
Somebody comes sliding down the hill, and they turned the sled around somehow or other and ran into another kid and sliced his leg open. John was there and took care of him until they get an ambulance. And he subsequently did become a doctor.
Huh.
That's the story up to that point.
Yeah. So why don't you tell me, aside from Uncle Bob Martin, who was really one of your two best friends in your life, who were some of your other friends that you grew up with?
Well, they were more acquaintances than friends. I didn't have too many friends in school. Claire and East lived on Stevens Road on the other side of Belleville Avenue. Over the store down by the school was a Chinese family named Chan. And Irma Chang was one of the students there. And of course, Dr. Smith's daughter attended the school also. That was pretty much it up to that point.
So I got a question for you. It's, the story about the plane factory. The plane factory. During the Second World War, they used to build the planes.
That was my dad Jordan, was a glazier, and he worked for National Glass in Newark. And the owner passed away, and the wife was running a business, but she didn't know anything about the work that had to be done, so he became her foreman and did that. Now, during World War II, there was rationing on gas, so being he used his car for business, he had a B sticker, and on occasion we'd go down to Asbury Park to measure a job, and he'd take us with him. And if we were going down Route 9, almost every time during that period, if we were going down Route 9, the traffic would be stopped because they were towing planes from the factory which was building planes on the west side of things over to Linden Airport, where they were flown out to cross country and wherever they had to go.
That was pretty exciting to see all those different planes.
13, 14-year-old kid, it was just wonderful.
Right.
People have asked me, did they build bombers or fighters? For the life of me, I can't understand. Maybe sometime we can Google it and see if there's information, but I didn't ever. I couldn't have Googled it because they never had cell phones when I was.
Right. Yeah. You didn't have a phone when you were little.
Pardon?
I said you started this whole thing off that you didn't even have a phone in the house
That's right.
where you were born. So,
Springdale Avenue.
Springdale. That's where you first moved to in Belleville.
See,
Oh, in Newark. Okay. So, from who's older, Uncle Art or Uncle Warren?
Uncle Artie was the oldest.
So why don't you name all of you, all the way down to you?
Well,
There's
Uncle
Uncle,
Artie was the oldest. Then there was Evelyn,
Aunt Evelyn.
and then there was Claire, and then there was Warren. They were my half brothers, actually.
Right.
Sisters.
Right.
They had their own families. I'm not totally remembrance of who they are. I'll have to work on that for a future story.
And then there was Gert, Helen, and you.
My sisters, my half sisters were Aunt Gertrude, who was 10 years older than
There
I
you-
was,
Right.
and Aunt Helen, who was 7.5 years older than I am.
Right.
Jimmy Jones, who was my sister's father, had been a World War I veteran, and he suffered from what is now called
PTSD.
Yeah, PTSD.
They called it shell shock back
Yes,
then, right?
So
Well, he'd been gassed, hadn't he, during the First World War?
sorry.
I remember you saying that. And yeah, I can remember as a kid he had breathing problems.
And, a little, sometimes there were problems at the house. Finally, he moved out, went over to Kearney. Now, Unky, who was my mother's brother, worked at Worthington Pump as a pattern maker. I didn't fully understand what their jobs were. He was very instrumental in building some of the things for my train set, which I had at a later date. Mom and Dad bought me a circular track with a passenger train, 9L, of course, 027 gauge, and got bigger and bigger and bigger. Finally, it took up half the dining room at Christmas time.
Well, your parents would add to it every year during Christmas, except during the war, right? When things were rationed, right? So,
Of course, eventually I took over putting it up, and of course I got a little more fancy than the original train set. I set up separate sections where I could switch them off and on with separate strips. He had made a beautiful control panel. It was a box about that wide, about that long, had a sloping top to it. It had a transformer in it. It had switches for the tree. Well, first of all, it had a pilot light in the middle. I turned that on, and then the Christmas tree, the village lights, train set, all run out of there. But eventually, train set got so big that they had to get a separate transformer. And,
So you got fancy with the wiring, though, if I remember correctly.
that's correct.
And
So
then-
I set it up so I can have the train come around, go into siding, stop, the other train can come around. Mom and Dad were, Uncle were having company, and I was going out. They'd say, set it up so that all I have to do is run it with the transformer.
The transformer, right?
Which I did. I know we had friends come over from New York. They had heard so much about the train set, they came over to it. And of course, as things go, it was a snowstorm. We had no electricity. So trains wouldn't run with candlelight.
No. Imagine that.
So
So when you moved into that first house, was that the foreclosure?
no,
That was the one on Stevens Avenue, Stevens and Belleville.
Belleville, Stevens Road.
Right. So Grandma and Grandpa bought a foreclosed house, and the people who'd had it before you were pretty ticked that the house was getting foreclosed on them, weren't they?
Yeah.
So-
We painted all the walls gray. There were beautiful columns in between the hallway, stairs come down, winding staircase come down. And there were these two columns there, and there were two columns in the dining room. And Dad was so annoyed. He tried and tried, but there was no way he